or we're not able to be here today, I am going to make a recording available. So with that, I will share my screen and we'll get started. Here we go. I'll give that a second to come through. So our topic for today is achieving those big goals that you have your eyes set on in 2024. And we're going to take a look at New Year's resolutions and the dangers of them. We'll just go to the agenda very quickly. Here you go. We're going to look at those New Year's resolutions first, setting big goals second, and then actually tracking your progress towards achieving them. And then we'll end up with a Q&A session for any questions asked. So moving on, New Year's resolutions. I did a little bit of research and I came up with a few questions around them. How many of us make them? About half of us actually make New Year's resolutions. Whether we do that every year or whether this is a question around how many of us have ever made them, it's about half of us. The confidence level around success is not so high. So even though we make New Year's resolutions, and sometimes, we make a lot of New Year's resolutions in one go, we're actually not tremendously hopeful that we're going to be successful with these things. And then in terms of how successful we are in actually accomplishing things, well, they don't last very long. 4 out of 5 actually fail by the time we get to Valentine's Day each year. So an 80% fail rate within 6 weeks. So those New Year's resolutions are not holding fast. And what we're going to do in a moment is take a look at why that is. Now, moving swiftly on, here are the most common themes. And as I kind of look down the list, and by the way, I asked ChatGPT to summarize everything it could see around New Year's resolutions and give us the most common themes. And this is what ChatGPT came up with. And they fall into these 8 categories. And as I look down the list of actual New Year's resolution themes, they're all very positive. They're all around, being healthier, being more diligent around managing money, about giving more generously, about working on relationships, growing ourselves and so forth. They're all very positive things. But if you think back to that last statistic that we looked at, where 80% of them are failing after 6 weeks, something's clearly going wrong. Positive outlook, not very positive outcome. Well, we'll take a look at why that is. Why do they fail? Well, I came up with these 9 reasons. I'm not going to talk through all of them, but I thought we could just take a quick look at a few of them. So one of the first things that happens is that we set ourselves too many at one go. 10 New Year's resolutions. I'm going to get lighter. I'm going to get fitter. I'm going to, all of these things. And so we make a list. The time of the year may actually be a difficult time as well. As we kind of wrap up one year and look to another, it can be that we're under a lot of pressure to start the new year off with a bang, to actually go for things in a very positive way. So there's that time of year thing as well. And as well as that, as we go into the new year, we've come out of a holiday period where maybe we've had a lot of time with family and friends, we've eaten too much, we might have drunk too much, and actually we're deciding that we're going to do things differently. So the time of year can be a bit of a problem. Going down to the fear thing, this could be fear of change that holds us back. We don't actually really embrace the need for change, or it could be fear of failure. We embark on something, realize that actually we may not be able to do this, and then we stop. Poor preparation's another one. Seemed like a great idea at the time, but actually we didn't really realize what we were getting into. So poor preparation can be another factor. And then the one that I've left to last here, this lack of accountability, is one that actually I think is perhaps the overriding reason why New Year's resolutions fail. They're very personal. We made the list, and so it's our list, and it's our list to do with, and it's maybe our list to choose not to do with or to let fall. Well, when we hold ourselves accountable, or when we have somebody else hold us accountable, it can actually add more impetus. So that lack of accountability, I think, is another reason why New Year's resolutions fail. Moving on now, let's go take a look at setting goals. And I love the thought of standing right at the top of the hill and actually looking down on where I've come from. Whenever I walk up a hill, I always enjoy, even part way up, stopping and turning and looking around and back down the hill to see how far I've come, even though the top doesn't seem to be any closer than it was. But when you reach the top, there's that exhilaration, that sense of satisfaction, and you can just survey everything around you. So let's go talk about, first of all, small goals. Small goals are a bit like that scrunched up piece of paper that you successfully lob and get it into the office waste paper basket. Easily done and easily achieved. The only thing about these small goals is that even though there might be a momentary sense of satisfaction, actually it doesn't really mean very much, and others are actually not always that impressed with our ability to toss a paper ball into the basket. They don't really stretch us, they don't really help us to grow, and the satisfaction level's pretty poor. But here's the other thing, they're actually easily forgotten as well. Now, that's not to say we shouldn't have small goals. I would regard them more as course adjustments than goals. So a course adjustment might be that we're actually going to make sure that we take a break once a day. It might be that we're actually going to cut out something that we eat regularly, that kind of thing. But it's not it's not a big goal. It's a kind of a course adjustment thing. But here's the thing about big goals. Big goals are good for us in that they do stretch us and they do grow us, and they actually help us, interestingly, to build confidence, because as we stretch and grow, our confidence rises as well. But they require discipline. And the reason for that is because if we're going to achieve them, it takes time. And if it's going to take time, it's going to require us to be tenacious about it. And so these big goals, as we move towards them, we realize that we're on a journey to reach that summit, to get to the top of the hill. But what big goals, when they're achieved, what they do is they give us that kudos with those round about us who know that we're achieving, that we're moving towards the goal. And when we achieve it, well, there's that round of applause, we might say, and we get noticed. Now, moving on. Your big goals. This webinar was all about your big goals. So there are 3 things that I recommend that you do when selecting your big goals. First of all, take time to reflect and answer these 2 questions. What is it that's important to you? And then answer the question, why is it important? What is it that's important to you and why is it important? Take time out to reflect. Sometimes having a clean sheet of paper in front of you and just writing down what's important and what's not actually helps to clarify our thinking. It might be that for you, reflection might be a conversation with a friend. It might be a walk taken and the ability to just get away from the screen and get away from the phone and just actually think. So take time to reflect. The second thing is to ensure that your goals are actually aligned with what's important to you. So if relationships are important to you, then goals that actually work on relationships would be the perfect fit. But here's the thing. We've got to make sure that they're big, in that, if it was just as easy as throwing a paper ball, a sheet of paper bunched up into a ball, into a waste paper basket, that's not big and it is achievable. When we set a big goal, we've also got to figure, is it achievable? So going back to that relationship kind of question, and by the way, relationships are not just personal things, they're relationships in business as well. It's big. Is it achievable? Am I going to become King Charles's best friend? That would be a very big goal, probably not achievable. And I'm sure you can also think of others that would be big but not achievable. Okay, and then prioritize. Choose your top 2. Excuse me. And then once you've selected which are going to be your top 2, then define what success to you looks like. What outcome at the end of the year are you looking for? Is it going to take you a complete year? It may be that the goal that you've set your sights on is actually going to be accomplished in 6 months by the end of June. And then who's responsible? Now, very often New Year's resolutions are very personal. And so clearly it's you as an individual that's responsible. But if the goal that you set for yourself actually involves others, figure out whether or not they can be in some way responsible too. But responsibility and taking responsibility is very key in achieving big goals. And then we'll move on. Now you have to plot your course. Having defined those two goals and having defined what success is now going to look like, here's what you do. In order to achieve them, you break them into bite-sized chunks. I've called them milestones here. And each of those milestones has its own deadline, timing, and an intended outcome. We know what the first step is that we're going to take. But as we go along, if this is going to be a long journey, if this is going to be a very big goal, we can't always see what the intermediate steps are going to be. But we do know what the goal is. So even though the first steps might be clear, and even though the ultimate destination's clear, what we find that setting those month by month goals actually helps us just to keep the journey going. We may not know exactly what they're going to be month to month, but we know which direction we've got to head. And so it's really important that actually we set some goals, some milestones, and then what we do is we actually keep revisiting and moving towards the ultimate goal. So it's a journey that you're going to be on, and starting the journey actually involves taking your first steps. And I mentioned lack of accountability earlier. Taking a friend with you, and I don't mean taking a friend in the sense that they're actually going to be with you every step of the way, because it's your journey. But having somebody that you check in with regularly, whether that's a friend, whether it's a member of the family, whether it's a coach or a mentor, be accountable to them. If you've said that you're going to reach a certain point by the end of the month, then review with them and have someone with you on the journey who's going to be honest with you and talk to you. Now, you said you were going to do this. What went wrong? That kind of thing. Be accountable. It's the surest way of ensuring that you will actually make progress. And then as you make progress, celebrate each milestone. Each of them is a mini accomplishment in its own right. Each of them takes you a step closer to achieving your big goal for the year. Now, your big goal for the year may well be something like weight loss or building better relationships, or it might be that your big goal is actually to double the revenue of your business or to double the size of your team. So celebrate as you build towards that, celebrate reaching each milestone. And of course, we don't know exactly what route we're going to take for the whole time that we're working on this big goal. So be prepared to adjust the course when necessary. It's really, really important that actually as we find that we reach a bit of the ground that we weren't expecting, a bit of the hill that's a bit steeper than we thought, maybe it's an impassable part, that actually we adjust course, but we keep going. And that's the next most important thing. Keep moving forwards, keep going upwards, don't stop. And don't reverse. Reversal only should come if we're actually trying to find another part of the course that we can take to move up. And what's really important here is that we establish the habit of month by month making progress, month by month being accountable, month by month moving forward. Now, these two goals that we've taken a look at here are maybe just a part of the ones that you had on your list. Once you've established the habit, you don't have to achieve these two goals before you can go find another two. But what is important is once your progress is good, once you've established that habit, then you can go take a look at what the next two goals on your list would look like and then repeat the process. Now, if you take a kind of an example there, every 2 or 3 months, you might be adding another couple of goals in, but you're not taking on 8 at once or 10 at once at the beginning of the year and then failing with them. What you're actually doing is you're taking them 2 at a time and you're working on them until you've got them going. And then you're taking a look at the next 2. And then you're taking a look at the next 2. And by the time you get to the end of the year, you've made really great progress with some of the ones that you started early in the year. The ones that came along later, still a work in progress, but still working towards your goal. So this way you actually make great progress and you actually feel the satisfaction of all of that. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is commitment. When we make a commitment to anything, what we've got to be really careful is that if we're trying to leap across a 10-foot gap, that we're not doing it with a 9-foot leap. So we've got to be honest, we've got to be earnest, we've got to be committed to what we're about to do. And that's another reason why taking on just a couple of goals at a time is really important, because when we take on 10, the chances are we're carrying so much baggage that we're either not going to make much progress or we're going to fail to make the 10-foot leap. So my recommendation is that what you do is you start and you go into it committed and you fulfill that commitment, and then go repeat and then go repeat. And what you do is you actually build the muscle that's needed to actually be able to achieve big goals. So now we're going to move to the Q&A. One of the questions that I was asked during the session was around whether this method applies in business as well as in personal goals. And it absolutely does. I know that in business, there's always a lot of pressure to do a lot of things, but we can still prioritize, and we can take a look and work on those that are actually most important to us, maybe starting with the ones that are the biggest in terms of importance, or even the ones that are biggest in terms of how long it's going to take us to achieve. And remember that in business, sometimes the goals are actually ones that we're not going to achieve in the next 12 months. They're actually ones that lie 2 or 3 years out. But the same principle applies, that we can actually have a plan for the immediate steps we're going to take. We can have our eye on the goal where we want to be, and we can actually just keep reviewing and moving, and actually just keep accomplishing as we move towards that goal. So yes, we can. One of the other questions that was asked was how often we should review goals. And in my view, I don't think once a year, like at New Year time, is a great idea. I think it's a kind of a natural point in time, but I don't think it's natural in the sense of being sensible. I think we can have a list of goals at any point in the year, and I think we should actually review them every quarter or something like that. So we're working on a couple, we bring another couple in, and while we do that, we take a look at the goals that we've got on the list. And if some of those goals have gone, then just take them off. It could be that what was important to us 6 months ago is no longer important. We scratch it off the list, and maybe there's other things that will come in. Well, that's all I have for you on this topic. I hope it's been useful, and I hope you've enjoyed this. I've got one more thing that I want to share with you, or rather 2 more things. And these next steps are available to you. The first one being, if you want to have a chat about anything to do with setting big goals or achieving big goals, if you want to have a discovery call, then use this QR code or this link here to book a bit of time with me. The other thing is, I've already planned my next webinar. We're going to talk about handling difficult conversations successfully. And so you can use the QR code or the link to book your spot for that. It's on the 25th of January, 2024. And I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks very much for joining today, and I look forward to speaking with you again.